ngoba kwakuvela wena langa usasivezela kaloku umlo kaloku wentswela boya into ezawuloyayo lo mzi waseAfrika saba ngathi ngapha nangapha kanti ngalo lonke lo xesha yiyo kaloku nguye ndithethe ngantoni nantoza kowethu ndithetha mna ngezakhamzimba izakhamzimba ezithatha ingqondo mntana zihambe ziyoyifakeliweni cima langa singakothi hayini kaloku madoda ndawuthetha mna ndityibileke de ndityibilike ndawuthetha kaloku amadoda ngaba awisi inqawa zawo ngoba kaloku ilanga xa lithe lavela libangela into yoba sihambahambe ecaleni kwalo libangela into yoba sidangale singafuni ukwenza nto sizijubula isifutho seqela lokungabekho sineliswi lunkahlakahliso kaloku elikubekhuhla ngubo apho kuvela khona ababhali izinto ezimana ukuwuloya umzi kaloku ziwuhleka abe kubetha umntu ekufake ekhwapheni cima langa singakothi hayini madoda namkelekile kula mazwi ngoba kaloku amazwi kathi avela kuye kuvele kaloku namakhankatha elizwi kuye kuvele kaloku neengcibisi elizwi ngoba kaloku ukhe wathetha kaloku omnye umntu wathi ndibangakhohlela kuthi khahla igazi cima langa singakothi ndayithetha into ndingayazi kodwa cima langa singakothi.
Welcome everybody to this. I suppose it's been announced as a pop-up poetry event, and it is because it's popped up. We just saw how it popped up with this magnificent introductory poem from Dumisa Mpupha. Thank you very much for starting us off like that. What a space opener that is. That's a brilliant start to it. But we're here to talk about poetry and to have a conversation, and during the conversation I hope we will have performances and readings, not just from the people at the front here, whom I will introduce in just a moment, but perhaps also one or two people who are now sitting in the audience. We can drag them out here as well and to take part in the same conversation. My name is Harry Owen. Welcome to this wonderful winter afternoon in the Eastern Cape. It was definitely wintry this morning. It doesn't seem anything like so much now. It's a beautiful day. But we are here, as I said, for poetry. Let me introduce first of all our guest of honour. May I introduce first of all, in the middle here, Stuart Paterson, who is visiting the Eastern Cape for the first time. For the first time from his home in Scotland. He'll tell you more about it, but he's from the southwest of Scotland, from Dumfries and Galloway. He is a poet in English, but also in the Scots language. And that's one of the themes, I think. Oh, there we are. Who's that?
Robert Burns, looking like Che Guevara. And it does in fact mention on my t-shirt where I come from, just in case I get lost and have to be returned.
Have you been tagged? Could we find you a way back home?
Like Paddington Bear.
Okay, well, welcome, Stuart. It's lovely to have you here. To my left is Mandla Jakala, who is another wonderful poet, and he will be joining in with us there. Let's give him a round of applause. And you have already met, on the left there, we have all already met, Dumisa Mpupha, and he is just a wonderful performer too. Praise poet, bongi, and it's just wonderful that this mix. I think this is a world first. This is a world first. This mix of poetries, this mix of languages, this mix of world views. It's going to be an exciting conversation to have. So, Alan, you can clap again. That's fine. But first of all, I think I would just like each poet. Could I invite each poet in turn just to say very briefly who you are, what your background is, tell us a little bit about you. So could we start with you, Mandla? No problem.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
I'm Manjengosi Kiagala. Originally, I'm born from Selim. I am a traditional praise singer. I'm coming from a rural area. My clan name is Chawe. I am a chief. Mr. Tutusai. I'm staying here in Grahamstown. Thank you.
Welcome, absolutely welcome. Thank you very much. Nobody will charge you a fee for clapping today. If you feel like doing it, please do. Please do. I'm going to come down the line, if you don't mind, to Dumisa first, and then I'll ask Stuart to start us off with an introduction and perhaps a poem to go with it.
Okay, for me, everyone knows that I'm Dumisa Mpupha. But my real surname is not Mpupha. My real surname is Papana. I am from the Nzotho clan. Because the Mpuphas are the Zochos. Yeah. I had a bad luck of being born here in Grahamstown. I would like to call myself as one who was born in one of the farm areas here in Grahamstown called Kwamatwai.
Okay.
Because of that, every time when you ask me where I'm from, then I would say I'm coming from Kwamatwai. Starting as a poet, as an imbongi, when I look at this thing of praise poetry, I thought I just happened to be one. And then I just followed it. Then as I grew up, I thought, oh, no. This thing found me. It found me. Because firstly, I wanted to live out of this. I wanted to get some food out of this. But as I carry on with it, then I could say, you can't live without it, but you can't live out of it. Yeah. Then, because of I hate too much English. I hate English, kakul. As utata here, French, ne? He can do French, then I would love to learn French. I love Afrikaans better than English. But I opted for my mother language, IsiXhosa. The English is for me, is just for communication. No, please don't be offended. Please don't be offended.
Thank you that you use it for communication.
By the way, I thought Ubonga, for me, I envisioned myself as a volcano. It should be volcanic. Whenever I shout, people should run away. Then you didn't do that. Thank you.
I love that notion that English is only for communication. That's all I use it for. My misfortune is I've got nothing else. So I have to use the English to express the kinds of things that you're using IsiXhosa for.
Please call me wherever you are because I can speak English. Don't say, he hates English. Then
No. You've got somebody sitting next to you who probably also hates English. In fact, Stuart, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and perhaps could you start us off with a poem if you've got one ready for when you've introduced yourself?
Aye, sure. Well, stand up. First off, I'd just like to say thank you to Sue and Harry for organising this. It's really great. We popped up and here we are. Speaking in English. My name is Stuart Paterson. I work full-time as a writer, as a poet. I work primarily in English and Scots language, which are two of the Indigenous languages in Scotland. This is 2019, as you've gathered, which is the International Year of Indigenous Languages. So for me to be here and to meet these guys and to hear their works and their music is a real privilege. I live in a place called Dumfries in Galloway, which is in southwest Scotland, as you've already heard and seen my t-shirt. Originally from just up the road from there, I grew up in a place called Ayrshire, which was also the home of another little known Scottish poet called Robert Burns. And Burns moved to Dumfries and then he died. I moved to Dumfries and I'm still alive, so it's a considerable bonus. But yeah, I work in schools. I work a lot at schools and I work a lot with kids on their own Scots language because English, as you say, Dumisa, you're right, very much is the language of communication. But the real language for a lot of kids, and the language they speak, maybe speak at home and between each other, is Scots. And there's a whole rich vocabulary of Scots language. A written tradition going back in song and poetry about 800 years. We've got countless dictionaries in Scots, countless books, thesaurus and everything else. And to me, although I write in both, I think Scots is very much the language of the heart for me. And it's a very musical language. I'm a big music fan. And I love rhythm. I love all the stuff that poetry can do, you know, rhythm, tropes, metaphors, etc. But it's the music of poetry really that attracts me. So to hear other people doing the same thing in their language of the heart is a real pleasure. Oui, ici, je parle un peu français, monsieur.
Ready?
Français, un peu.
Yeah.
So, I could read you a poem soon. Or...
Please start us off with a poem.
Right.
I hope your poetry is as strong as your whiskey, though.
Oh yeah. You like whiskey?
Scots?
You like Scottish whiskey?
Yeah. I don't know about Scots poetry, though.
You'll find out in a minute. Maybe you should have a whiskey while you're listening to it. Maybe help you understand. This is a poem called Bringe. And this is in Scots. It's not so much in Scots as about Scots, although there's a lot of Scots language in it. The word Breinge, B-R-E-E-N-G-E, has kind of like two meanings in Scots. And one meaning, it means to shove out the way or to push, so you breinge somebody. Another word for another meaning for breinge is if you go on like a really enjoyable trip somewhere, like to drink some Scots whisky at a distillery, for instance. We'll go for a breinge to the Talisker distillery, for instance. So it has two meanings. And I live in the countryside in Galloway, about 12 miles from a town called Dumfries, and so I have to get the bus. I don't drive. This is one of the immutable laws of the universe. Poets don't drive. He's strange. He drives. I understand that. So I get the bus, and the bus always gives me time to sit and look about, think, plan my day, maybe write a poem on my phone, which I do quite a lot. It goes through a beautiful little village nearby called Carsthawn, which is near the sea. And this poem really is thinking about language and my language. I suppose it applies to anybody's language, so there won't be a translation as such, but hopefully you'll pick up what it's meaning. Bringe. This morning, well, the 372 is the name of the bus, sorry, it's not a Scots word, 372. This morning, as the 372 shuggled through Carsthawn, Harpuled Wabbit past the kirk and through Dreich Smirchoid down from Grocott Braes above, I saw a cowpit yow and a kelpit lee, Beelin Eend, Cuddies lean over a hazel rod dyke to lower at me, a fug of spjugs loup out of nowhere on a whigmaleery of peery wings, imagined I heard a linty sing beyond the engine's pech and screch, thought Locriff of a water daw, time prisoned to language's muckle flaws, and need for a never-ending bringe, thrilled to the whiles verfochen adventure of it all. I've done it, but I'll do you a quick translation. It means...
No. That's good.
Quick translation?
We don't want a quick translation.
All right.
Give us a quick translation later, because I'm interested in this theme that you started off there, and you mentioned it, the language of the heart. If it's the language of the heart, it seems to me that it should come through as a poem anyway, without translation into English. So, Manda, how do you feel about that? Is that something that you'd agree with, or have you got something that you could add to that?
I agree. Ubonga. Singathi xa sithetha ngako ngokwale ndlela umhlekazi besebeka yinto ephuma ngaphakathi kuwe enhliziyweni Mr. Tutu okanye Mr.
It comes from within.
Ndifuna umnyameka abahlekazi ngoba ndifuna
Sorry. Praise singing is something that comes from within. I mean, he's in agreement with what he's just said. That poetry should come from inside.
Yeah. Thina ke abanye apha ekubongeni bayabhala, abanye apha ekubongeni ababhali. Kweli cala lethu ke thina maXhosa sinembongi yosiba, sibe nembongi yomthonyama.
Sorry. Some of us write poetry. Some of us, it comes naturally. We have what we call like indigenous like poets, who like oral poets, as opposed to having like poets that write and recite and then come and perform what has been written.
Kodwa ke yonke lonto siyayidibanisa ngoba singumuntu omnye. Yonke lento siphiwa ngabantu basemakhaya, ngabantu abalele ukuthula.
We are people who believe like in ancestors. We are people who believe we have our own African like kinds of religion. So we believe like those who have departed have imparted on us some skill or some like, so this oral poetry thing is something that comes, naturally, as opposed to those who like learn and write. But all in all, we don't classify each other. We are poets all together. Because either I write poetry or he performs poetry, but we are poets. We are all like imbongis.
Yes. Pamba lihlale phansi manithethe ngam ngokukhawuleza. Mna ndikhulele emaphandleni njengembongi yomthonyama. Andivelanga ndabonga. Kube khona izinto ezenzekileyo phambi kwento bangabana ndibonge. Khule ekhaya kukho iinkomo, iibhokhwe. Bekusithi ke xa sihlanganisa ingomo sizibiza ingomo zasekhaya ngamagama. That is where by ukubonga kwaqala khona.
Oh, before I sit down, let me start off by talking about myself. Before I started this poetry thing, I started off by, in fact, at home, there were heads of like cattle and like other like sheep or goats and all that. But then, when we were like heading them to the crop, we had to call them by their like respective names. So then this poetry thing, struck me then, because I was like in the midst of words and all that.
Nokuba ke nolunda lwethu njengeziduko zethu senze izinto zasemakhaya iye lonto yaluphuhlisa ngakumbi ukubonga kwam kwaphucuka ngeyona ndlela ngoba izinto bezithi zenziwe ekhaya beziye ngokuba nje ndimane ndikhulu kulanto bendiyithathe indlalo ziye zichukumisa igazi lam tade ndiba ngulo muntu ndime apha namhlanje.
To have a hump, there are these cows that have like that kind of a hump, To us, it symbolizes pride, To have a hump of poetry, to have pride of poetry. Started off because, I started off by doing things at home, that were necessarily done by, people like, I would say, small boys at home, but then I grew up among people who were like sort of traditionalists. So I saw things and associated myself with those things. And I became like I just became a poet, but I associated myself with all that, and I was, words struck me.
Okay,
Fantastic.
Ndiyakuhlonipha ukubonga.
I respect poetry.
Ngoba ndiyayazi ubonga ayikokwam ndiphiwe ngabantu basekhaya.
Because poetry, I know, does not come from me, but what I say comes from those who are my predecessors.
Yes. Ndikhe noko ke nama emaqongeni amaninzi nembongi ezifana no-Mr. Mpupha, o-Mr. Nqwenisi, o-Butsaki, nabanye ke nabanye, ndisenza lo mcimbi wokubonga nakweminye imisitho emikhulu.
I have shared the stage with the likes of Dumisa Mpupha, Bonisile Nqwenisi, Dudu Sati, and others, you know, and I've done this poetry thing, and yeah, and in other like events of national importance. So yeah, I revere poetry.
Siyabulela ke ngale mina namhlanje into bangabana nathi ulwimi lethu sixubane nabanye abantu basemzini kumsebenzi esiwenzayo.
We are grateful for this day, so that we can like mingle with other people from other like cultures to do this kind of an event. So we are very grateful for that.
It is. Can I ask a favour then? And thank you, Dudu, for doing the translation. It's really interesting and important that you do that. You're saying so many important things, but we haven't heard one of your poems yet. Could we hear one of your poems?
Can I translate what you've just said in IsiXhosa now?
Yeah.
Siyabulela ngalento uyithethayo. Sibulela nakuwe Dudu ngokutolika lento ithethwa ngumfana. Kodwa asivanga mbongo wakho mfana. Sicela ke ngoku sive umbongo wakho mfana.
You didn't know I could speak IsiXhosa, did you? Please, let's hear one of your poems.
Just before he goes on to his poem, what he was preparing now, is that when it comes to imbongi, we don't go according to the program.
Yes.
Neither do I. I'm pleased to hear that.
So whatever happens, then it's because of the spirit of imbongi is just taken over.
Should we simply wait for you to be ready?
Let's give Mr. Saki first a chance.
Sorry, could I ask a question before he has a chance? Just for clarification.
Ask a question, Alvin. Go on.
Yeah. Is being called to become an imbongi something like being called to become a traditional healer, where the ancestors call you and you can't resist it, even if you want to?
Ingaba ubizo lokuba yimbongi luyafana nobizo lobugqirha apho ungasuke nje ube yimbongi kodwa kufuneka ube nezinto akufuneka ungene kuzo.
Ukubonga ukuphiwa zizinyanya zakokwini. Xa ubonga wena uchuziwe ngabantu abalele ukuthula. Imbongi ligqirha nayo kodwa lona ligqirha livela lithethe kungakhange kucingelwe. Igqirha ongayiyo kuliyobuza indaba livela lichaze ngelalo ithuba indaba kwisizwe.
Imbongi or poetry, the traditional poet is associated with, I don't want to say traditional healing, but igqirha, no, yes, is associated with that, but you are given that gift by those who have, like your predecessors who have departed. They impart on you that gift. But you are not like a traditional healer because you are not like into the health and the well-being of a person. But you can see what foreshadows, what comes, like you are here and when you turn the corner, I can see that there's something that's going to happen. When you're about to turn the corner, then I will like spontaneously shout. But it's not like I am a traditional healer. I can give you medicine and everything. But this thing, this gift has been imparted on me. And sometimes even the nation at wide, I can see that the nation is headed in that direction, whereas it should be headed in this direction. So I can just shout spontaneously saying that we are headed for doomsday or something. So that but still, it does not mean that I am gifted in the world of medicine.
But it's a fascinating, I love the idea of calling. And the call is not to the head, it's to the heart.
Yes.
Yeah. And I love that idea because it chimes with, even though I do write, I'm not a performer as you are, but for me, when I write, sometimes I don't know what I think until I've written it.
Yes.
And there's something of that. For me, it comes onto the page. For you, it just comes bursting out, and it's wonderful. So we share that, I think.
To add on that, one of the writers, of the authors, I think it's IsiXhosa, he said the imbongis, that is the traditional praise singers, are the descendants of Amazwi, the diviners. So, if they are the descendants of those people, definitely they are carrying in their blood and in their spirit the same traits of their DNAs.
So presumably, Dumisa, you agree with everything that's been
Yes,
said.
yes,
You
yeah.
feel exactly the
They
same.
are the descendants
of.
of what he was asking.
I wonder if the Scot would feel something of the same. Thank you, Michael. That's lovely.
Well, in Scotland we have three, well actually we have 5 indigenous languages. This is what people forget. We have Scots and English diverged from Scots round about. People say sometimes that Scots is not proper English. Actually, we always say that English is not proper Scots. because we, you know, the English were kind of speaking like this about 600 or 700 years ago, and then English modernised and became a separate language. Ours stayed the same, yeah.
Yes.
So we're the real native speakers. And then you have Gaelic, which is a Celtic language as well. You also have what's known as Dirikoi, or Traveller's Cant, and travelling people speak Romani, which is an Eastern European origin, but also has elements of Gaelic, and also there's sign language as well. Gaelic and Scots, especially Gaelic though, has a rich history of oral tradition. And you've heard of bards, B-A-R-D-S. So the bards were the ones who carried, they were celebratory poets, yeah, much the same. They carried the genealogies, the histories of families in their heads for going back hundreds of years. They celebrated famous victories, births, battles, weddings, anything. And every clan had a bard. Scots, not quite the same, but it's very much a working class kind of language and tradition of celebration and entertainment. My Scots is much more musical than my English because of that. I think, you know, yes, it's written down, but I've just because I've got a terrible memory, I've got a bad memory. But yeah, as to me, poetry, my poetry in Scots is written to be spoken, to be performed, almost sang. So it has a lot of elements of that in it. So it's very much a performance based type of poetry, I think, Harry.
So what you're hearing here is not a surprise to you, is it? That this is where the poetry comes from, and this is a real crossover of different languages, different cultures, but same poetry.
Poetry's great. I love poetry. I absolutely love poetry. I have no idea where it came from. Well, I kind of know. Like my mother, for instance, imbued a strong sense of poetry and love of poetry and love of words and Scots language in me since I was that big. That was a long time ago. So yeah, it's kind of passed down, that love of language, and we have a lot to thank our parents sometimes for our friends for keeping things alive and instilling in you a love of something which otherwise you wouldn't have. Yeah.
Well, let me ask another question of all three of you now, whichever you wants to answer, please do. Does your poetry come from a sense of place, a place that you belong in, the place perhaps where you were born, or the place where your family is from? Do you respond to a physical, material place, whether it's a home, a kraal, or a house, or whether it's a region? Am I making
yes,
I see blank looks here, but does it make sense?
It does make sense, because most of the times when you, let me talk about myself. My reference to what I'm doing, even though people are telling me right now that it was my mother who was a poet, but when I grew up, I never saw my mother performing up until I was 17 years old. And now this year, it's my 30th anniversary for me to be a poet. Congratulations. And all of a sudden, as I grew up, I could see, because But most of the people, they would like to call me as I was too westernized, because of I don't respond to the ancestors. Yeah. I respect them very much, but I don't respond to them. My calling, I would like to say, has nothing to do with them. My ancestors, even though this thing was I was told that it came from my mother, but before Dumisa read the Bible, Dumisa was never a poet up until I read the Bible. So for me, Yahweh is the one.
So are you saying that some of your poetry derives from the Bible, from its
No.
rhythms?
Mine, the spirit of poetry started when I read the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah. Then, if you were there during 1989, 1990, when I started this poetry, then you could see how rich my IsiXhosa, and then my IsiXhosa, I will take it from the Xhosa Bible. Because that was the only book that I could understand better than anyone, even today. So, just before I go, when I was asked to come here, I would come and say, I would stand in the middle of nowhere and say, here I am, I'm going to do this in front of different people. And then I'm calling upon you, the Creator, to help me and give me some.
So it feels like a very personal relationship.
Yeah. For me, it's a very personal relationship with Yahweh, the one you call Yahweh or God or so, but I don't call him like that.
Funyene entanjeni ndiyakulenga kwinyaniso ndoxhathisa kumhlaba endiqatshelwe kuwo ndibuyele kwiziziba zeenkumbulo ndeyele kwintliziyo enemfezeko utyani olungenakubuna lohlumo. A perfect heart. My soul is orphaned, with neither hindrance nor grounds of supplication. For long, poverty abused me, striving hard to sell my soul, with no willing bidder. My size mattered not, for the soul's what's desired. And the traveler's stomach bears no measures. It is in front, but behind legs is rucksack. With a perfect heart, peace I will disturb. If needs be, I will murder. Found, why, on a rope I'll hang. In truth, firmly anchored, to earth of which I'm extract. With a perfect heart, I shall return. In the depths of memory, I shall linger. And from a perfect heart, an unwithering green shall grow.
Becoming an independent nation from the United Kingdom. We're partly there, and I think Brexit's going to help us along a bit. Hopefully soon that'll happen, and the sooner the better that the shackles are off. There's a kind of list in the middle of this which exemplifies, I think, why who you are as a culture and as a race and as a nation and as people is usually determined by other people. So you get stereotyped into boxes, and I'm not quite sure that that's always a good thing. If you're Scottish, we don't all look like Mel Gibson, Braveheart, you know. There is no Loch Ness Monster. Sorry. So this just talks about democracy and self-image, and it's called I, which is how I voted in the 2014 Scottish referendum. Tick that box, and it'll come again soon because it's going to happen again next year, and hopefully more people will vote I, and I'll be coming back to you from an independent Scotland. So it's in Scots. Get Bocket, Hod for it, cock a lug to me, in Dumfries, in Dingwall, in Dors, in Dundee, in Australia, New Zealand, the US of A, feel the tide of an old freedom swelling. Gather your graith for Foss County Collective, rip up the plights of the past 1,000 years, shake off the stour that would blin you for aye, and wipe off your jockedile tears. Call a bye to the something and gurning and greeting, and how could the lead that would gie you the boat? Cough up the shackles that weigh down the race, tin your hands of the legends that smother this place that have grown more important than folk. Cock a lug to the swirl of the kilts and the drums, to the snash of the factories and belch of the lums, and remember, our betters would rather the clan of one brain than one free-thinking woman or man. How could the lead and gralach the sounds of the clanking old shackles still wear us down? And once and for all, take a keek at the lot we've been selt to console us and mak us the Scots. The mist, the midges, Cockade and Claymore, Gordonston, Loch Lomond, Braemar, Haggis, Neeps, the wee free kirk, a wedding kilt with a plastic dirk, Holyrood, Mons, Meg, Glams and Codder, Rangers, Celtic, Harry Lauder, Culloden, Flodden, Preston Pans, the wee white rose, the drunk man, the working man, the vow and labour, Whiskey, Woad and Michty, Cabers, the monarch of the fucking Glen, the lassies, rashes, lochs and bens, the corries, porridge, brigadoon, Rob Roy, Braveheart and the Bruins, the tartan army, qualifying, thinking, drinking, no qualifying. Ali Bain and Norman McCaig, Gartcosh, Seafield, Ravenscraig, Walter Scott, Robert Burns, Will Fife, Dugdale, Davidson, Brown, Forsyth, Dr Findlay, Parahandy, Yarrow, Fairfield and Ferrante, Dead Industries by the way. Bonnie Prince Charlie, the Silvery Tay, Torness, Corpach and Doon Ray. The big and still game, Frankie Boyle, the Barnett Formula, North Sea Oil, Maxton, Gallagher, McLean, 100,000 Hungry Wains, the Daily Record, Scotland's winner. And so the lines grow longer, thinner, new road extensions, skip-by schemes, McDonald's, Pound Worlds, blues and greens that have nae place this side of Ireland, islands now no longer islands, Aldriki Festival and Fringe are a dearth of trawlers on the Minch, and families in port and tune with less than nocht to go around, sit douf afore the foreign telly, ignoring rumbling, half-empty bellies. Rip up the postcards, the tea towels and placemats. Red out the biscuit tins, flambe the scones, burst open, break down and demolish the was and the yets and the tours and the brofantouche haws or the milder ancestral old pile we call home. We're canny, no canny, we're I and we're I. We're Scottish, we're British, we're world, we're I. The bullet of hope fired into a box, the bomb of the future explodes in a cross. Thank you very much.
But I've got to say now, I don't know whether I'm going to embarrass this young man or not, but the person who's been filming us all through this little conversation here, standing even now behind the camera, is also a poet, a performer of note. His name is Aslan Akalima, and I wonder if we can persuade him to come and do something for us or to involve himself in the conversation. Aslan, will you come forward? Good clap. Take a seat. Oops.
Okay. Is it running?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aslan Makalima. I call myself a rapper. I won't say I'm a musician. I'm a hip-hop artist. I'm a performer as well. So I would say hip-hop is also like similar to poetry because we call it rap, which is rhythm and poetry. And it was used as a tool back then to share knowledge, to share information. But nowadays, hip-hop is like captured because it is used by corporates to sell their own agendas or to spread their own agendas. But hip-hop is still alive and kicking because we still have like artists or rappers who still like use the same idea, the same knowledge as why hip-hop was invented from the start. But now we see hip-hop is used in clubs, taverns, like stadiums, like anywhere where you could find maybe like a corporate trying to sell a brand. So hip-hop is used like that now. So it's up to like whoever who listen to hip-hop to choose like which kind of music you want to listen to. You want to vibe, you want to get manipulated, there's a lot of music you can pick from. I myself, I do like a lot of like hip-hop. You can find me in clubs performing You can find me in festivals, you can find me like in gatherings like these, because I'm a writer before I was like a hip hop artist. Because when I started, I used to write. I didn't know I was a rapper, I was like a poet back then. I wouldn't call myself a poet though. I wasn't aware of like that skill that I had within me, because I was just writing, like expressing my emotion back then. But now, as I was growing up, I discovered that actually this is like a skill that I had within me that I didn't know, and it even developed even more further. So now I'm using it as a tool to share knowledge, to share ideas, to advise, to have fun, like all kinds of sort that you can maybe think of, because hip hop is versatile in its own. You can find Christians, you can find Satan himself, Lucifer himself in hip hop. Like anyone, there's a lot of things that you can do with hip hop. Same as poetry.
Aslan, could you give us an example, a short example of what you do? Or is that putting you on the spot too much?
Okay. I wasn't prepared to perform today, but what do you have? A performer. Back then, I was growing up, I was a kid. I would say I was also naughty, but not that notorious. I grew up in the streets, and I hung out with a lot of people from the street. And after I realized that actually this is not the right way for me, because I was also in school, so there was a bit of a conflict between like school and street. So I had to make a choice in what is it that I want in life. So I would say hip hop saved me back then, because I had a pen and a pad, and during my spare time I would write like what I had to share. I used to perform with the beat, but
I'm sorry, we can't do that.
it's cool, because I'm sure everyone can understand. I don't normally explain as in when I perform, I just perform, but I feel like I should now, because I'm sure. No, don't do that.
We want a beatbox for you, not with voice.
No, don't do that. Okay, this is a story, basically. I'm going to make a rhythm with my words. I'm sure you're going to catch up along with me. Yeah. Okay. Ukamachita kutuzaya kokhelane sokweni. Ukamachita ngena theba gotyiwe ezidrongweni. Kwangakhathaliya gcwele inkohlakalo ezingqondweni but nango Aslan. Yeniphethe sibane emqolombeni. Ukamachita kutuzaya kokhelane sokweni. Ukamachita ngena theba gotyiwe ezidrongweni. Kwangakhathaliya gcwele inkohlakalo ezingqondweni but nango Aslan. Yeniphethe sibane emqolombeni. Sikhule without the understanding, siphile life yebomnandi, besikhule ubuchomi. Unozale pay 100 rand, ihlengo sikela zifa amacala or ziqabhuka umphansi, ibhili ekhala ibhungane kusheka utsolo kanye vinika, iJomisa phunga plate line zangamapita. Thina hlele ekoneni zona ngaba tshintsha amabhinqa, and then began to lose faith, kaphelisa losokuphila. Life became a rough game. Phuphe kasi intshiza. Ikasi was a death row, ikasa livuzela chisa. I had to go with the flow because imali yayisiza. Sonke sasigamahumusha singenamani sikhuthuza esikhala sibafindanda, funa ukulibala ngezigamabhuza. Umis asimurathele bezipicturesha ngomphuza, the one ebexelela what to do, inqindi beliphuza. Ngesingenazo nenhloni siphafa izolo ezikoneni. Ungenakho ngobuso bahleli sikhona ezimukweni. Siphelo singesasazi, ngengcabo kanye etrongweni, akuba senakho nokuthini sinqamenye sinabo esikhotheni. But then again hip hop came to my rescue, not because of ramming, it's because the park will kill you. Park no BG, besibasele besezi gangsters. Until the day the soldiers fell, when we became rappers. Then I realized that from the east I'm holding the light, because when I look to the west, I saw my future was bright. Izinto zitshintshile, izifundo zami zifundile. Esikhala ngiqhubekile, ne-mistakes zami zilungile. Uphilile ngala crime, iphikiswa ngezibhekisile, noma sobaphinda khale ngami nasemthandazweni.
This is poetry as, or in this case rap, but poetry as lifesaver, isn't it? And that message is a really important one that you pass on, so thank you very much for that. And thank you for all you've done this evening or this afternoon for us as taking it. Aslan Makalima, give him a clap. I think we are probably getting a little close to the end, but I'm just nudging. You said you would jump up when you were ready. You're evidently not ready just yet. So, but as I think I did ask for comments from the audience just before. Have we covered what we should have covered this evening or this afternoon? Are there things that you wish we had raised that haven't yet been raised, and could we now in just a few minutes? Or do you think we've... I know Dudu's got something to say, because he's always got something to say. I'm just wondering if anybody else has for the moment. Okay. Dudu, say it.
No, I'm interested in poetry, the translation of poetry, because I'm a writer. I do read my poetry though. I don't know whether to call like performance poetry nowadays. I am not sure, because there was like spontaneous performance poetry. Then there is like rehearsed, written performance poetry. Now you write, you rehearse, and then now you call it performance poetry. I'm not sure about that. But I write my poems, then I read my poems. Then when I have memorized my poem, I can recite my poem without the book now. But it's still written, so I don't know. So now I'm just asking whether like poetry translation. Well, sometimes I translate my poems. I write this poem in IsiXhosa, I translate this poem into English.
Is it the same poem? Does
It
become
becomes the same poem, I'm telling you.
Okay. Can we ask our panel what you think of that? You're not nodding anymore, you're shaking your head, Stuart.
I find it really difficult to write a poem in Scots and translate it into English, because it just isn't a poem anymore. It's just a collection of translated words. You know, a lot of the words I use in Scots, in everyday language, are not just words; they're concepts, they're feelings. So you know, or they're music. You know, they're lyric. It just doesn't translate really. So I think that although with this one, they're translating into Gaelic and Scots, both languages have got kind of a similar musicality and rhythm and stuff, so that's easier, but it doesn't work with English for me, unfortunately. No.
Interesting.
For me, it's so difficult for me to read my poem in English when I've performed in IsiXhosa. It feels like I was cooking a meat and then all of a sudden the pot falls down and then the gravy is there and then I have to collect this meat and wash it before I get it back to the pot. So it feels like that. But it's better for me to translate the poem of somebody else because I try to put myself in his shoes. And I just and then when I translate it, I could see it, it's not the same. But if it's somebody else's one, then I try to make sure that when he reads it, he can feel, let's say 80 or 70% or so, that, oh, it's still my poem.
I hesitate to come in because I'm not any sort of expert here, but I sometimes wonder whether a poem in translation, wonderful poem though it may be in translation, is it actually the same poem as the one that was written in the original language? Are there, as Stuart's suggesting there, sometimes things, feelings, references, sophistications that just don't translate? And does it matter? Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe the translated poem is a new work of art in itself. I don't know. But it's a fascinating idea. Fascinating idea.
But can I ask another question?
Just before you read it.
Okay.
Because when you translate a poem from IsiXhosa to English, in English, when you talk of love, when you talk of IsiXhosa, ukuthanda, but in English you have to be specific. Is it do you like or do you love this? And then most of the times English doesn't want to commit. Because in IsiXhosa, love and like is one thing. Thanda, it depends on the context of what you are saying. This. You'll know that if I say Thanda, if I like this guy, then in IsiXhosa I have Thanda for him. But in English, I have to be specific. I like him or I love him. So there are those issues when it comes to translation.
But I think it depends upon the context of the poem itself. Because love and like, it depends upon the context now. What did you say? What did you want to say?
It is in English. I don't know.
No, I'm saying I started off writing my poetry in English. Because the person who influenced me was Lisejo Ramboloke, who wrote his poems in English. So now, it was in 1993, I think, when I was influenced by Lisejo Ramboloke. He was with the late Umfazo Mnyama at the monument, and we were there for the school's festival. And I heard him reciting his poetry, and I listened to the rhythm of the guy. I never heard what he said, but because this guy is too fast. But now, the rhythm and whatever, I started writing in English and trying to find words that rhyme, but I didn't make sense then because I was young, until I learned to write and read IsiXhosa poetry. Now, imagine you are talking about a chair and how beautiful a chair is. And you write that in English. But before you think in English, because your mother tongue is in IsiXhosa, what do you think of a chair? What do you think a chair is? Isitulo, which means you know exactly in IsiXhosa before you even translate it into English.
Yebo, unjani, gikona, wena unjani, nami gikona, molo, molweni, unjani, dipilile nkosi, wena unjani, dipilile. They want to learn the language of power. I want to learn the power of their languages. But how is it that I never get beyond greetings and leave-takings?
Madoda! Yaqhuma kwisizwe sakwaXhosa! Awashukume namhlanje amathabhetho kanoJosi lele rhwarhwa! Awashukume namhlanje amathabhetho kaMqayileni phantsi kwentaba ozuko! Awashukume namhlanje amathambo kaJolobe madoda! Ngoba namhlanje siphethe into omnyama! Ngoba namhlanje siphethe into yethu! Ngoba namhlanje siphethe into yaseAfrika! Thina sikabantwana bamnyama! Thina sikabantwana bomgquba! Thina sikabantwana besizwe! Masibaphethe ke madoda!